Top 10 Worst Premier League Managers, including Arsenal and Liverpool legends. Management is a ruthless gig at the best of times, nobody can deny that. But leading a club in the Premier League brings even more scrutiny. There is no hiding place in English football's top division. That is why managers who not only enjoyed great success but unprecedented longevity in the league, such as Sir Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger, are now immortalized. But in the cutthroat industry, some are almost destined to fail. Many succumb to the pressure, while others just lack the tactical nous to compete with their more accomplished rivals. Daily Star Sport looks at the worst 10 managerial reigns in Premier League history. Not all world-class footballers become top coaches, and Arsenal legend Tony Adams is a prime example. The former Gunners captain became a laughingstock for his managerial abilities after taking over Portsmouth in October 2009. Pompey won the FA Cup the season before he took charge, proving they had some classy players. But Adams' unconventional methods couldn't bring results, and he was sacked after accumulating just 10 points in 16 league games. Like Adams, Souness's glittering playing career could not be replicated on the managerial stage. Souness lifted 5 domestic titles at Liverpool, but could not lead them to one as manager, instead taking the club backwards with poor recruitment and questionable man management. Despite FA Cup success in 1992, he resigned just 18 months later after struggling to recapture the glory days at Anfield. Following spells managing abroad, he later returned to England to take over Blackburn in 2000 and enjoyed mixed success, though his biggest triumph winning the League Cup in 2001. But he then cut short his stay at Ewood Park to move on to Newcastle in 2004, spending significantly at St James Park before being sacked 2 years later after getting the Magpies into a relegation battle. Bradley remains the only American to ever manage in the Premier League. And he hardly paved the way for his compatriots across the pond after a dismal spell at Swansea City under the club's American owners. Bradley came with experience in 2016 after half a decade managing his national side, but he lasted just 85 days in the hot seat in South Wales. He won just 2 matches in 11 and failed to organise a defence that were allowing opposition to score at will. Statistically the worst Premier League manager of all time, many sympathised with the Dutch boss after his dismissal. That was because he only coached Crystal Palace in 4 Premier League games. His record? 4 defeats. 0 goals scored. His sacking symbolised the changes in the top of the English game, with managers barely afforded any time to work with their players if it could jeopardise survival. When a new manager arrives, it is normal to expect a bounce where players grind out results with a new lease of life. But that wasn't to be the case for Aston Villa fans, who waited 2 months to see their first win under Gard, who was out of his depth in the Premier League. Gard was appointed in November 2015, with a daunting task of keeping the rock-bottom Midlands club in the Premier League. He left 4 months later after a run of 12 defeats in 13 games. Lightning didn't strike twice for Huddersfield Town when they appointed their second consecutive manager from Borussia Dortmund. David Wagner worked miracles to get the West Yorkshire club to the Premier League and maintain their top division status. But when the time came for the Terriers to part ways with the German boss, 36-year-old compatriot Stewart was not armed with the tools to succeed. Stewart managed to claim only 5 points in 15 games, and the club were relegated in March. The turbulent reign of Di Canio at Sunderland was hardly a surprise to anyone who was aware of his eccentric and outlandish character. His best memories will include the famous away win against Newcastle, prompting wild celebrations from the Italian, which helped maintain the Black Cats' status in the division. But any enjoyment was short-lived as the divisive Di Canio fell out with his star players and was sacked after just 1 point was picked up from 5 games of the following season. There were high hopes for Felix Magath when he arrived at Craven Cottage to take over Fulham in 2014. But just 6 months later, he was already packing his bags and on his way out. Having had domestic success with Bayern Munich earlier in his career, the Fulham job turned out to be a baptism of fire. Magath failed to keep Fulham in the Premier League and was relieved of his duties after a stuttering start to the following championship campaign. Sometimes, managers just aren't equipped to manage on the big stage. That appeared the case for Wigley, who was given the full-time Southampton gig in 2004 after his only previous experience was 3 years at Aldershot. He secured just 1 victory in 14 games and was soon given his marching orders. Since then, Wigley went on to have a variety of coaching roles, including Stuart Pearce's assistant at Manchester City. Jewell played his role in the worst season of any club in the Premier League era. Derby County amassed 11 points in the 2007-08 season, and Jewell had 6 months of the season to enforce change after Billy Davies was sacked in November. He failed to win a single Premier League game in charge of the Rams and was sacked the following season, with Derby struggling in the championship. Get your hands on your club's special edition 2021-22 annual. Find out more here.